Did you know that there is an official PC port of Digimon World? There are two main problems with this. The first one is, well, this is a bad port. Random crashes, random glitches, things sometimes just don't work as intended. The second fact, it is in Korean, so I can't understand anything. I know the game like the back of my hand though, so it's not a huge issue for me personally. I really wanted to show this off though, as it's kinda neat. So let's get the elephant out of the room. The first thing you may notice is the fact that the game is running fast as hell. This is because the game is directly tied to your CPU speed. I have a Ryzen 7 3700X, which is not top of the line or anything, but it's enough to make the gameplay go really fast. If one is a machine that is at least somewhat modern, this is going to run fast as ass. So no, I'm not altering the game speed or the video speed, I'm not doing any of that. This is honestly a double-edged sword. For some tedious things like training at the gym, carrying dirt, hunting for Quigimon, this can actually be a lifesaver. This also makes the loading screens go by in the blink of an eye. They weren't too bad on the PS1 version, but this decreased time is really nice. This can also come in handy when mashing through dialogue. In general, I've become less tolerant of games that run slow, so this was an interesting change of pace. However, moments where I wanted to go slow were pretty painful. Enemies are already very hard to dodge in the PS1 version due to the different camera angles. Some are very claustrophobic and the enemies charge right at the player. On the PS1, these were at least somewhat doable. Here though, I got into so many battles that I didn't mean to. Speaking of the battles, there's no way around it. They are pretty broken. For one, I have no idea what triggers status ailments anymore. I've seen Spitfire paralyze. I remember Ogremon poisoning Ogremon, even though it can't learn any moves that can cause poisoning to happen. Sometimes the game will just crash too. It happened a decent bit when I tried to use my finisher technique, but there are other oddities that made the game crash. Sometimes moves will only deal 1 damage and it'll stun the Digimon for a few seconds. This made battles come to a screeching halt, and it really was annoying after a while, especially what happens to the enemies. You will blast right through your Digimon's MP, while the enemy takes no damage. When this happens, I would try to follow it up with a finishing attack, just to have the game crash. This one Ogremon and Drill Tunnel gave me issues too. I remember gaining stats when Agumon was attacking it for some reason. I still don't know why this happened, but you should stay clear of this butthole. Did I forget to mention that some moves and finishers simply don't work at all? It sucks because battles are such an integral part of the game. The visuals are kind of a mixed bag. On one hand, the increased textures and resolution is nice. I can actually see Ogremon face and make out certain features. However, some models are completely broken. Like, look at Shungon Gekomon as an example. Cherrymon doesn't look too hot either. Clear Agumon is legitimately a clear Agumon too. While I love the game's pre-render art, it does get in the way at times. Sometimes it's pretty much a non-issue, like when talking to Waymon, the player may clip underneath the bridge, just a little visual effect that doesn't affect gameplay at all. But at other times, it can screw you over. You can't see the ×2 and -2 spots in Pangumon's curling game. The music is a mixed bag. The music will continuously play when transitioning between loading screens. Now that is awesome. It was kind of annoying hearing the same loop in the PS1 version because the flow always got broken off by these loading screens. So what's the problem here? The audio itself took a weird hit. To be honest, some of the tracks, like both the Tropical Jungle ones, actually sound better here. Most of them took a weird hit though. Maybe it's not fair to call it worse, but it just sounds different and in kind of an odd way. It's hard to describe. On that note though, Gyromon's Jukebox actually works in this version. Hooray! Let's get back to the negatives. We can't be too positive here. You cannot start with Gabumon. Don't get me wrong, I've always been a bigger Agumon fan. He comes with Spitfire instead of Sonic Jab. Getting Greymon as your first champion is always exciting. But like, you're limiting the options to the player, damn it. If I wanted to start a second run, maybe I would go Gabumon for more of a challenge. I clearly can't do that though. Some of the shop menus are kind of broken. Getting the Amazing Rod was such a pain in the ass because I had no idea how many merit points I needed. Sometimes they won't display the price of goods correctly, and that shit is annoying. Knowing the game like the back of my hand really helped me out here. Remember those like little PC or monitor things that will give you items when you interact with them? Those simply are not here for some reason. The hitboxes though, you can see the player running into nothing. I know the location of most of these, and I tried interacting with them to no avail. It's unfortunate because these can contain very useful items. There are plenty of UI and other small changes in there. For example, both the Death and Digivolution screens are different than the PS1 version. The items on the ground are squished and really compressed for some reason. The Digimon is massive on their stat screen, and they move now. Centaurimon doesn't have X's for the wrong path, so you're gonna have to guess. The real-time shadows are neat. I know small things like this, a lot of people won't really care about them, but I love it when ports aren't quite one-to-one. It's fun just spotting out the little differences. You want something positive? You can save at any time and hold up to several save files. This is nice because in the PS1 version, you had to either wait until your Digimon needs to sleep or use the virtual pet thing in Digimon's house. This really helps because of how unstable this port is. At first, I lost a lot of data due to crashes, but it's nice that you can mitigate it, at least a little bit. It also comes in this little launcher thing. It's kinda neat. It also makes a loud noise when you start it up. I don't have too much to say here, as I can't understand half of these menus anyway, but I wanted to point it out. I wanted to talk a little bit about the run itself. Ogremon did all the, in quotes, basic stuff. You know, he got Palemon, Kunimon, Agumon, Betamon, Bakumon, among others, to the city. I also carried some dirt to make Dramodramon's tunnel go by quicker. Nothing too noteworthy here. So I got Centauramon as my first champion because my Agumon's brains were too high. I really should not have given him that brain chip. This was annoying because I was aiming for Greymon. He could learn neat attacks like Megalo, Spark, and Spinning Shot. Instead, I just spammed the shit out of Spitfire with Centauramon to kill most enemies. Without the sped-up speed, this would have been a huge chore. I also want to point out that I got Monochromon to join the city on only my second try. The game was really generous here. So many customers came in looking for medicine. In general, things went pretty smoothly with Centauramon. He took on fights that I was debating, are you even strong enough to do this? Some fights like Tyrannomon and Meramon, he honestly took like a champ. Centauramon finally digivolved into Andromon, which was so nice. The first thing I did was learn Megalo Spark because Metal Sprinter eats ass. It does such little damage and takes up a lot of MP. After learning that, he pretty much rolled through the game easily. Megalo Spark and item spamming are enough to beat the game, honestly. I was going to beat the game with Andromon. I made it all the way to Mount Infinity. But something bad happened on my way to Machinedramon. Eventually, Andromon died and I figured, okay, no biggie. The next logical step was to get Numamon so I can get Monzimon to do Toy Town. I gave him all my chips and his stats were simply insane. It was enough for me to do Toy Town effortlessly. After that, I decided to beat up Mamimon and Piximon because, why not? I didn't want to do them with my first guy. I decided to clear out Mount Infinity and I beat Machinedramon. I couldn't wait for the postgame to get Digitamamon. The credits roll! Wait a second. There's no postgame. I decided to beat Machinedramon like 5 goddamn times just in case if I missed something. But no! There's no way to save the game after you beat Machinedramon like in the PS1 version. Whenever I would load my save, it would just bring me back right before the Machinedramon fight. Come on, man. I was excited to get Digitamamon to the city. Maybe going for that 100% city completion. Oh well, I guess. Please, if any Digimon World scholars out there know what happened, please let me know in the comments or something. I tried looking into this myself, but I can only find a single playthrough of the PC port online, and they didn't even bother with the post-game. There are a couple of things I wanted to knock out, like Greylord's Mansion, finding the items for Midramon, getting Digitamamon, doing the back dimension. And for those trying to keep track at home, I got everyone in the city except for these Digimon. Metal Greymon, Airdramon, Devimon, and Megadramon, they are all a part of the Mount Infinity quests, so they never technically joined the city, despite defeating them all. Digitamamon can only be obtained afterward as well. I didn't bother with Kabuterimon and Quigimon because the fishing will probably be ass with the speed increase. On that note too, time doesn't freeze when fishing, unlike the PS1 version. I never had a good virus Digimon, so I never did Skull Greymon. Finally, I just didn't want to get the items for Midramon. The South Korean PC port of Digimon World is a cool little oddity, but I certainly wouldn't call it essential or anything. I wouldn't even call it a good port. It was fun to mess around with for roughly 7.5 hours or so, get 76 prosperity for the city, as well as defeat Machinedramon. But I'm realistically not going beyond that. I may do Greylord's Mansion once I get a good virus Digimon after Monzimon passes, but that's probably it. The random crashes, sped-up gameplay, lack of post-game, and language I don't understand are high entry barriers. It's neat to have a native PC port, though. I would be ecstatic if they cleaned this up, translated it, threw it on Steam. A man can dream, though. A man can dream. I just really want this game to be on something other than the PS1, goddammit. This game is begging to be re-released with some of the bugs ironed out. Oh well.